afternoon and welcome to this edition of Border Report Live. My name is Rudy Mireles and I'm your host here in Harlingen, Texas in the Rio Grande Valley of deep South Texas. We've got a great program lined up for you today. It's a conversation we've been wanting to have for a very, very long time. A little later in the program, our South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez is going to be leading a conversation with the Executive Director of the South Texas Builders Association, Mr. Mario Guerrero, about the impact ICE enforcement operations are not only having on construction sites across the Rio Grande Valley, but the economic impact of it all here in the Rio Grande Valley as well. Looking forward to that. But first, as always, let's go ahead and take a look at what's trending across the border, starting in Minnesota, where over the weekend, a federal officer shot and killed a 37-year-old man in Minneapolis amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Now, this was the second fatal shooting by a federal agent this month. You may remember the shooting of Renee Good at the very beginning of this month. Now, it has led to mass protests even in the sub-zero temperatures, with demonstrators saying enough is enough. Now, the Department of Homeland Security claims Alex Preddy, the man federal officers killed, was quote-unquote brandishing a gun. But multiple videos shot by protesters show a very different story. Lana Zach has the latest from Minneapolis and gives us more insight into the victim's life.
Video from inside this bystander's car shows an up-close view as federal agents appear to spray a chemical irritant, then wrestle Alex Preddy to the ground on the streets of Minneapolis.
That is police brutality!
Other video from outside shows agents restraining Preddy, an American citizen. One appears to pull a gun from Preddy's waist. A second later, Preddy was shot and killed by another agent. Hours after the killing, the Department of Homeland Security said Preddy approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with this gun while agents conducted a targeted operation for a violent individual. Preddy was a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry a concealed handgun.
These officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives and the people around them.
State and local officials say the videos paint a different picture.
This is an inflection point, America. If we cannot all agree that the smearing of an American citizen and besmirching everything they stood for and asking us not to believe what we saw, I don't know what else to tell you.
Witnesses on the scene testified that Preddy was holding his phone and did not approach the agents with a gun. He approached them with a camera. A pediatrician who was nearby when the shooting happened testified none of the ICE agents who were near the victim were performing CPR. The witness counted at least 3 bullet wounds in his back, an additional gunshot wound in the victim's upper left chest, and another possible gunshot wound on his neck. Preddy was an intensive care nurse for veterans at the Minneapolis VA hospital. A 2024 video shows him reading a final salute for a deceased veteran.
Today we remember that freedom is not free.
Preddy's father said his son participated in protests after Renee Good was killed by federal agents earlier this month.
He cared about people deeply, and he was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis and throughout the United States.
Alex was a really good person.
Robert Alver met Preddy when they were at the University of Minnesota.
I mean, you see that smile, and what do you think?
That's him. That is how he came to work. He was serious about his work, but he wasn't serious. You know, quick with a joke and very funny.
It's a true loss for you.
It's a loss for everybody.
A federal judge issued a temporary restraining order to block the Department of Homeland Security from altering or destroying any evidence. Today, Minnesota prosecutors will be in court trying to compel them to provide access to that investigation. Lana Zach, CBS News, Minneapolis.
Now, as Lana mentioned, a federal judge is hearing arguments today on whether she should at least temporarily halt the immigration crackdown in Minnesota that has led to the fatal shootings of 2 people by government officers. Now, the state of Minnesota and the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul sued the Department of Homeland Security earlier this month, 5 days after Renee Good was shot and killed by an immigrations and customs officer. The shooting of Alex Preddy by a Border Patrol officer on Saturday has only added urgency to this case. As more than 3,000 federal agents take part in the immigration crackdown in Minnesota, residents are also finding ways to help those people impacted. Former Trump supporter Felisa Martinez is rallying volunteers to support immigrant children with supplies and even safe houses as part of a local food bank program. Last Friday, Martinez brought a family of 10, including 8 children, to a safe house in South Minneapolis after their Ecuadorian mother was detained earlier this month and federal agents went after her children.
Right now we have a brother who's 20 years old who's taking care of his 5 little siblings. The youngest one is 5 months. Because ICE had gone to their door knocking, and they were very afraid and they didn't know what to do. So we went out there at night and got them and brought them here to the safe house to get them to a safe place.
The Department of Homeland Security calls the deployment the largest in operation in its history. Dozens of immigrant families protested behind the fences of a Texas detention facility where a 5-year-old Ecuadorian boy and his father were sent earlier this week after being detained in Minnesota. Aerial photos taken by the Associated Press on Saturday show some of the detainees were standing outside the residence areas of the South Texas Family Residential Center in the rural town of Dilley. One detainee told the AP that families inside sought to send a message that they wanted to be treated with dignity and according to the law. The Department of Homeland Security did not immediately respond to an email looking for comment. Now, an immigration attorney who was there to visit a client said he heard families chanting Libertad, or let us go. Liam Conejo Ramos and his father were detained in Minnesota by immigration officials outside their home in Minnesota on Tuesday. Family and neighbors said federal agents used the boy as bait to get his mother to open the door. Government officials, however, called the account of events a lie. As we've talked about in the past, the ICE operations across the country are having a major impact on economic development. So even late last year, we even heard from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell point to immigration enforcement as one of the reasons behind some of the shaky numbers that the Fed uses while trying to figure out what they're going to do to keep inflation low with the limited tools and resources that they have available. But what about the shock that has in the local regions, in regions like ours here in South Texas? Well, here to talk about that today, along with our South Texas correspondent Sandra Sanchez, as our guest for today's program, Executive Director for the South Texas Builders Association, Mr. Mario Guerrero. Thanks for joining us today, Mario.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Mario. We've been wanting to talk to you for a while about this because we know that you have held a number of meetings recently with lawmakers and local executives and community leaders, and you're concerned. You're saying that there are raids on construction sites in South Texas. What's going on?
Yes, ma'am. So our biggest concern is that our construction sites here in South Texas, there has been a number of raids that has actually put a lot of fear into the community. Like the one that you're seeing here on the film. So that community there is a subdivision that is located on the outskirts of Weslaco that was actually a person's yard. If you look at that, that's actually somebody's backyard, and you're going to see that there's vehicles that are speeding through those backyards. What if there was a child that was actually playing there? Something horrendous can happen. Same here in this video that you're going to see here. You could see that there's no remorse. I mean, what if there's children playing outside and these guys are going 40, 50 miles per hour down a subdivision? As you can see there, those houses there are complete, and I'm pretty sure families do live there. As you see in this next video here, these are construction concrete workers that were, you had a whole crew that was picked up, and the person that owns that company had to look for a new set of concrete workers to go and try and dismantle all that because they were taking while they were pouring the concrete, and the concrete was actually wasted.
So, I mean, ICE is just coming on these construction sites. There's no warning given, disrupting the building that's happening, making it dangerous, you're saying, for communities and people. And frankly, you're saying, scaring the community. I think it's putting a lot of fear into the community. It's not nothing else than that. I mean, people have fear right now. There is no warning there's no warning. There's no warrants that are being showed. I think it would be a different case if there were warrants that were being showed saying, hey, we're looking for this murderer, this rapist. But that's not the case. We just have, vans are pulling up to construction sites. Masked individuals are getting down and they're questioning everybody.
which, I mean, I guess they have all the authority to, but all that also has implications towards our economy. So there's big issues right now here in the Valley when we're seeing a huge decline of construction loans that are going across the Valley. We're seeing a huge decline of materials that are being sold. So all that is a big issue when it comes to the local economy.
I understand there's a drop of like 30 to 40% in construction loans in the local economy. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am, that is true.
Do we have a number on how many people have been picked up by ICE this first year of the Trump presidency?
I believe it's somewhere over 9,000.
That's what was said at the second meeting, that the symposium that was just recently held. I think you attracted a bipartisan group of lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats. I mean, do you have a solution? Do they offer any solutions? What do you think needs to happen?
No, man, they weren't able to provide a solution. I think that the reason being is because nobody really knows what could be a solution. I think that what we're dealing with is something that we've never seen before, at least not in my lifetime. So it's something that's new, not just to the everyday civilian, but it's also new to these lawmakers that should be representing us in the higher level.
So the Trump administration says that it's targeting criminals, those with deportation orders. Is that what's happening, or are you saying something more is going on?
It's not what we're seeing. That's for sure. It's not what we're seeing. What it seems inside the industry is that they're just showing up knowing that there's low-hanging fruit there in construction sites. And what we're seeing is that these people are just showing up and they're questioning everybody at hand. And whether they have the proper documentation or not, most of the times they are questioned. One of the things that we're seeing also is that people are starting to use the right to remain silent, right? We as the owners of construction companies, we don't know who these subcontractors have working for them. So we hire a subcontractor, right? And the best thing that they can do is just tell their people to take care of themselves. And you know, I would like to believe that we're all law-abiding citizens, and we do want all the rapists and the criminals to be taken out. I don't think that there's somebody here that doesn't want that. I think we all want the same thing. But at the same time, I don't believe that every person working in a job site is a rapist and a murderer. That would be insane.
So walk us through some of these incidents that have happened. I mean, are they just so fast? I mean, can you give us some stories, some examples of what you've experienced or people in the industry here have experienced?
One of the ones that actually is something that it saddens me is there's a particular company that was pouring a concrete, and while they were pouring a concrete, their concrete crew was actually taken away. What happens in that situation is that you're not just throwing away all that concrete that was ordered for that construction site, but then you have to go ahead and redo the whole foundation again. So you're talking about a waste of close to $30,000 in an instant, right? So not just affecting the families, of course you're affecting individuals and families and you're affecting loved ones, but what you're doing to the economy is going to affect everybody. You know, it won't just affect the construction industry, but it's going to affect the everyday consumer here in our local economy.
We're speaking with Executive Director for the South Texas Builders Association, Mario Guerrero, about the impact of ICE raids on construction sites here in South Texas. We're going to continue the conversation on the other side of a quick break, so stay with us. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. Time now to get back to our conversation with the Executive Director for the South Texas Builders Association, Mr. Mario Guerrero, about the impact of ICE raids on construction sites here in South Texas. Sandra?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Mario, let's take it to Minneapolis where we're seeing these demonstrations and we've had the second fatal shooting. I mean, how have these ICE raids, have they stoked the anger here? Have you heard of anything? Do you think this area could be a tinder pot for possible, demonstrations against the agency starting to happen? What are you hearing?
I don't believe it would be. Not anytime soon. I think that something drastic would have to happen in order for it to get to that scale here locally. I believe that here in the Hispanic culture, it takes a lot to get us to want to get out and actually protest and stuff like that. I think because we're raised with we are raised with a lot of respect, right? And I think that we all do respect the law, and I believe that we're all law-abiding citizens. I'm not saying that protesting is against the law. We all know that everybody has the right to protest, but it just takes a lot for the Hispanic community to come out. I mean, all we really want to do is work. And I believe that the Hispanic community is one of the hardest working communities in the nation. And in order for you to justify to one Hispanic to another that it would be good to go rally against what's going on, you would be taking potentially money out of their pocket. So they'll probably tell you no.
You know, I thought it was really interesting something you said before the break regarding the community and how it's affecting these families. And I'm wondering, does your organization reach out and help these families that once they've been picked up, once they've lost a father, a family member? I mean, do you have a communication with them?
I know that our members have personal communications with certain people that have been going through these issues, and I know that they've been helping how they can by offering food certain days if they have groceries, also helping with picking up certain bills so that they can pay bills at their homes, because a lot of the times the people that are being picked up are the breadwinners at these houses, right? So we do have great members inside the South Texas Builders Association that are just trying to help humans keep, especially in like this type of weather that we're facing here today. It's cold, you know. They're just trying to make sure that they keep the warmth inside their home and that they have food. So definitely, we're always extending an open arm.
You also said that that some of these subcontractors hire people that you as a builder aren't aware of what their immigration status is, and so basically you're advising people to remain silent. That's also something that Lupe and some migrant organizations have been telling people, is that they don't have to answer questions. Is that kind of what's going on now?
I believe, I mean, everybody has a right to remain silent, whether you're an American citizen. I don't know how it is in other countries. I'm an American citizen. I do believe we live in the best country in the world. That's why we're able to have this open dialogue today, and be able to talk about what's currently happening. But I do believe that if you're in the United States, you have the right to remain silent.
Now, going back to that symposium that was held last week, you had some local elected leaders at the federal level, Congressman Monica de la Cruz from here in the Valley, as well as Congressman Henry Cuellar, I believe, at that event. One of the things you had kind of mentioned was that no one really knows what the solution going forward is. So if I could ask you, what is the solution that the South Texas builders are hoping for?
I think they're hoping for peace. I think they're hoping for peace at the job sites. Make sure that people feel comfortable going to work, and also peace in the communities. You know, I don't think that anybody is asking for this to go away. We understand that we did have an immigration issue under the Biden administration, but at the same time, if you're putting a fear into the hearts of humans that are honestly working and trying to make an honest living. That is a concern. Now, if you are here to show us a warrant and saying that you're here for XYZ because they've raped somebody or they've murdered somebody, I don't believe that anybody would have a problem with that. I believe that they would help. I would believe that they would help you get that person out of where they're at. But
and if I could play devil's advocate, but if they're being quiet and they're not answering questions, and you possibly could have somebody potentially dangerous or with removal or deportation orders, how do you rectify that?
Show me the warrant. Okay. You know, right? I mean, that's why the warrant should be showed, or should be something that, I mean, how is it that you can go into some place of business and not potentially show a warrant? If you're there for XYZ saying that they've murdered somebody or they've raped somebody, where's the warrant to show that that person did that? You know, there should be, I mean, that's the whole point of a warrant, right?
And I think that what a lot of people don't realize is living here on the border, you know, we have a lot of law enforcement agencies, and we're subject to questioning all the time, right? From not just police, but from Border Patrol, but from CBP officers, right? I mean, living here on the border can, you know, we can be asked a lot of things, and what we're seeing right now is this, you're calling it like an intrusion on your job sites.
I mean, the thing is, being born and raised in the border, I think it's our everyday lives to, you know, when you cross Falfurrias, you get asked by Border Patrol if you're a legal citizen or not. When you get stopped here by state troopers or any local law enforcement, they ask you for your ID. They want to know if you're an American citizen or not. That's everyday life for us. Mm-hmm. You know, I believe that everybody should work with law. I have family that are law enforcement. I have an uncle that's a sheriff. I got friends that are border patrols. I believe that everybody should work with the law. I don't have one bad thing to say about that. I think that the organization, what we're asking for is peace at our job sites, because this has gotten broader than just one or two people. This has gotten into the point where you have companies that are in the lumber industry, tile industry. You have banks that are saying that this is affecting our economy. And if it affects our economy, it's going to affect the whole ecosystem of the valley. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if there was actual warrants to show that you're here for XYZ, I am pretty sure people will help you get that person, because nobody wants a rapist or a murderer at a construction site.
And we just had the filing of bankruptcy by 57 Construction, a company here, a big concrete company, and that is going to have a ripple effect within the industry, right?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, and that's just one company. There's companies already that are unfortunately having to let people go. There's a particular company by Materiales del Valle that's had people working for them for 15, 20 years that they've had to let go, because they can't sustain the slowdown of what's currently happening here. I mean, you have lumber companies that are seeing between a 35 to a 40, I would believe it was a 42% decrease in sales. And the crazy thing is, it's only the first month of the 2026 year, right? So it's the first month of the year. What is it going to look like at the end of the year, right? So that's the biggest concern.
Now, we've heard, you know, there's obviously a housing affordability issue going on across the country. The polls, when everyday Americans are asked about it, especially those younger generations, I think it's 40 years old now, the average first-time home buyer, which, you know, about 30 years ago, that number was 25. And one of the things that the president and his economic advisors have said time and again over the last year is the answer to that is build, baby, build. Build, build, build. But if we're having these issues at these construction sites where companies are not only going out of business, people are afraid to work, you know, what if you could pick up that red bat phone straight to the Oval Office and get President Trump, who himself is a builder by trade? You know, what would you say to him, or what would you ask of him?
Well, first I'd say I'm a fan. I would say, hey, I'm a fan and I voted for you 100%. I think that if he would like invite me to go play at Mar-a-Lago, I'd take him up on it too. I'm a big golfer myself. So, you know, I would just say I'm a fan. From one business owner to another, I would just say, hey, I think what Mr. Trump has been able to do and get to where he's at in life, not a lot of people get to accomplish that in their day, right? So I think that we need to, as people, acknowledge that. People could say, no, well, things were given to him. Well, I know people that have gotten millions of dollars from their families and end up becoming drug addicts. So just because you get money does not mean you're going to be successful. So one, I think that where he's at, people need to commend it. I'm not educated in the law. I'm the furthest thing from being an attorney. And with that being said, I would just want to know what the motive is with this. If it's the motive is like, hey, we want to get everybody out in order to hire Americans. Well, I really don't see the Americans wanting to do these jobs, right? Because these are hard labor jobs. And then people would like to say, well, it's because you don't pay enough. Well, that's not true. I would like to believe that we pay more than actual cities do to their city employees. If you look at the average wage for a minimum wage job in a city of a person that actually, I'm going to use a city here in the Valley. You can look them up. I'm not going to put them out because they'll probably make news or something, but you can look them up. If you look at a groundskeeper, they're getting paid $11.20 an hour. That's $11.20 an hour to cut grass and to maintain the cities. That's hard labor. When the lowest hand in the framing crew makes $15 an hour. But I believe that the system has failed to educate our people to want to be inside the construction industry and work. That's what I believe, but it's just personal.
All right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately, we are out of time. We'll definitely have to have you back again to continue this conversation and see where things are looking as the year progresses. We've been speaking with the Executive Director for the South Texas Builders Association, Mario Guerrero, about the impact of ICE raids on construction here in South Texas, and not just construction, but the economy as a whole. So thanks so much for joining us, Mario.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right. Stay with us. One more thing to talk about when we come back. Border Report Live is back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to this edition of Border Report Live. We just got done speaking with the Executive Director for the South Texas Builders Association, Mario Guerrero, about the impact of ICE raids and ICE enforcement on construction sites here in South Texas and what that means for the local economy as a whole. And if you missed that conversation, well, don't worry, because you can always stay informed on the stories shaping the U.S.-Mexico border while on your commute home, or maybe you're taking the dog out for a walk, or you're hitting the gym real quick, because Border Report Live brings you real-time updates, expert insights, and voices from both sides of the border on podcast form. You can listen there at any of the places at the bottom of your screen. That's going to do it for us today. For Sandra Sanchez, our South Texas correspondent, my name is Rudy Mireles. We'll see you next time.